Welcome to the E-Show with Neil Ravin. With over 1,000 NCAA commitments, the EHL is the proven path to college. Turn it up and learn more about the college placement leader at the Division II and III levels.
Welcome to the E-Show, presented by the Penalty Box Foundation. The Foundation's mission centers around their daily motto, "We take care of our own," as they help out all of those within the hockey community who have experienced a catastrophic event. Learn more at penaltyboxfoundation.org. Once again, my name is Neil Ravin. This is episode number 28, and coming on the podcast for the second time, let's welcome in the head coach and GM of Team Maryland. It's Josh Fusco. Welcome to the E-Show, Josh.
Hey, Neil. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
And this is going to be upcoming your second year with Team Maryland. It's your fourth consecutive year in the EHL. For those that don't know this at home, you, of course, spent 2 years as the head coach and GM for the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Knights as well. So going into your fourth season in the league, how do you feel about where you stand right now in July compared to previous years?
Wow, right off the bat, hitting me hard there. It's been different, you know. Obviously, being in the league for 4 years now, and also being a part of, you know, NAHL organizations. You know, I feel more comfortable with things. I feel more comfortable with the landscape of junior hockey and the recruiting process, and obviously, you know, the spring and summer, it's showcase season. So, you know, now that we're in a whole different situation and world, essentially, it's been challenging. It's definitely been a little bit more avenues to navigate and kind of thinking outside the box a little bit when it comes to recruiting and tapping into more resources and going a different route in a different direction. But again, right, like being around now for 4 years, it hasn't been scary. It's not like I'm treading deep water with unknown, you know, anything underneath me unknown. It's just been finding different ways to go about things. And, you know, being a part of the league for 4 years, developing relationships throughout, you know, the college ranks and higher level juniors, that's been a major resource for me. I have a tremendous staff down here, you know, hired a couple guys on to help recruit and help, you know, tap into their local youth programs and stuff. Obviously Brandon Godkin and Clint Millamont with the Black Bears have helped me tremendously. Developing a couple relationships throughout the EHLP has definitely been a help. And I think, you know, being able to tap into the youth hockey in this area, in this region, being an EHL coach and showcasing that off has been a tremendous asset to me. So it's definitely been a little weird and a little chaotic, but it's been fun.
Well, and to touch on what you kind of started to allude to there, obviously it's a unique offseason compared to the previous 3 years. How much time have you spent watching video and on the phone?
Oh, man. That's probably every day I'm on video, you know, watching guys, you know, 2-3 hours a day maybe. Phone calls seem to be, you know, much more longer now. You know, I definitely miss being at the rink, seeing guys in person and being able to communicate with guys in person. You know, you got hockey TV, so that's been a huge help, but, you know, not everything is always in high depth, right? Or, you know, video quality isn't always the same. And sometimes you get clips from guys that, you know, from cell phones or their tablets and stuff. So it's been tough, and I'm ready for it to be done and over with and start the hockey season. But, you know, we've opened up down here 2 weeks ago. Our rink has actually been the main rink that's been open. So TM has had like all the youth stuff. They've had a couple clinics. They had tryouts last weekend with the Black Bears. You know, myself and the Black Bears, we've had a couple like youth camps going on during the week. So it's been nice to finally get out into the rink, on the rink. Yeah, we have to wear masks and, you know, go about the whole guidelines and COVID protocols with the rink. But which I have to tip my hat off to our rink staff, Gary Kremen, rink manager, and Matt, and some of the people that work at the rink. They're doing a tremendous job. Mike Weiss, tremendous job with the health and safety and following the guidelines and temperature checks and sanitation. But so it's just been good to finally be in a rink and seeing kids skate live. But the phone calls and the phone conversations, I mean, I can spend quite a bit of time on the phone talking to a kid, but now it's, you know, educating not just the kid, it's also educating the families, right? Like I think a lot, especially youth kids coming out of 18U hockey, trying to learn the junior landscape, especially down here, you know, second year of having junior hockey in this area. So it's just been a lot of educating. So phone calls have been, you know, I've been on the phone sometimes for about an hour with a family. You know, going through the whole process, what it means to be a junior hockey player, you know, the college process, the recruiting process. Obviously with the NA team, with some of the younger guys, there's that conversation, talking about that and the opportunity there. But you know what? That's why I'm in this position, right? That's why I'm the head coach and GM, and that's my job. And, you know, with COVID happening and not being able to be on the ice, running clinics or doing anything or practices and training camps or anything like that, it's just been able to fill the day with watching video and calling kids. So,
and you touched on this before. You said, you know, the one big similar factor for you when you compare Wilkes-Barre to Maryland, you've always had an NA team above your EHL team. That's been a consistent, whether 2 years in Wilkes-Barre or 2 years in Maryland. But I have to ask then, what other differences can you tell us about coaching in Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, Pennsylvania versus Denton, Maryland? What's the difference?
Location. Yeah, location. But I tell you what, it's you know, I loved my time in Wilkes-Barre. Obviously, I had a special thing going there, and that came to a halt. But you know, I love the location down here. I think this is our arena offers so much to a junior hockey player. Like our facilities alone. The one thing in Wilkes-Barre, like our facilities we're in the same building, but we're separate. Down here, our locker rooms are literally across the hall from each other. We share the same weight room together. You know, laundry facilities, and my office is right next door to Clinton Brandon's office. We even have our 18U team in there now. So it's literally, we're one big family, one big group. And the access to everything, right, is all the same. Like, you know, being able to help out with the Black Bears is easy. Being able for them to jump on the ice with me is easy. Brandon Godkin comes out and works with you know, my defensemen a lot. Chris Duransky, the 18U coach and director of youth hockey for Team Maryland, you know, he's a primary assistant coach for me, and he's out there all the time helping out. Jason Wolf, goaltending coach. Matt Reed's a skill development coach for us. He coaches the Pee-wees and does a lot of skill development stuff, player development stuff in this area. Obviously, Jason Wolf's connected with USA Hockey goaltending. The list goes on and on. Strength and conditioning staff with API, MedStars, our athletic trainers. But the big thing is everybody in the front office. It's like I said, it's one family, one unit. They make life so much easier. Robin Remick and Mitch and you know, Ben Lloyd, who does our play-by-play. They're all the same people, whether they're doing stuff for the Black Bears or doing stuff for the EHL team. You know, they're constantly doing stuff marketing-wise, social media, helping with ordering whatever we need to do. Last year, transportation, you know, they set up our buses for us and all that stuff. I think that's the biggest difference. I'm able to be a coach, and I'm able to focus on my job as being the coach and running this team. It's made my life so much easier, you know, and it's definitely been a blessing to have everybody. I mean, it's kind of funny you asked that, because I sat there the other day. I was actually I went out fishing with our rink manager. And we were joking about it. It was my second day here. And so again, right, like I'm used to in Wilkes-Barre, like we pretty much own the ice, own the building. And it was like, go out there, do your thing, you know, didn't have to worry about much. Here it's, you know, a public facility, and there's other programs and other things going on. It was my second day at training camp. Obviously I'm gung-ho, ready to go, you know, and excited, and new place and new environment. And the ice was in for like maybe a couple of days. Hasn't really been beat up yet. Black Bears practice right after us. I tore that ice to shreds, just destroyed it. I mean, I was not a good first impression. I remember Gary Kevin was ready to kill me. Brandon and Clint were ready to kill me. Yeah, it caused chaos. And we were joking about the other day. We're out fishing and enjoying the weather a little bit. And he's like, you remember, like, almost, you know, it's going to be a year ago when we got off on the wrong foot, and now look at us. And it's funny. It sounds, you know, it's weird, but it's one of those things that everybody down here has just been great. Everybody is welcoming. Everybody's been a helping hand. And I think that plays a huge factor in success and building an organization and having those relationships. You know, that's the big difference. Besides our facilities, what we have to offer to our players and everything else.
And hearing you tell that story and knowing kind of where you were following I think it must have been the 2017-18 season, which was your second year with Wilkes-Barre, was the year that you went to the Frozen Finals. Obviously, I don't want to talk about the games. It didn't go the way that you wanted to, but you were still one of the Final Four teams. And I remember when we were talking there, it was kind of like, well, we know the team's going away. At the time, we didn't know where you were heading. When I found out that you were staying in the league, obviously I was excited to have someone with your background sticking in the league, because I think that's always a big way to help a team, you know, continue to grow. But looking back on that, you go from being a team that was in the Frozen Finals, like one of the Final Four teams, to taking over a Team Maryland team that had really struggled in their first year. Were you excited about the challenge? Were you nervous about the challenge? Or did you get there, meet this family, and realize I'm in the right spot?
I think at first I was a little nervous, right? Because Wilkes-Barre was my home for 5 years. You know, I started coaching 16s there, and then we had the NA3 Atlantic League team, like, which was essentially the old Met League. And then I was on staff with the NA team for 2 years, and then obviously the head coach, the EHL. So I was a little, and it kind of just, everything was like a whirlwind, right? Like, it was just a huge gut punch. Like, you go to the finals, and that year was a tremendous year. I mean, I just remember everything about that year. And to this day, like, you know, I run into guys that are playing college hockey now, or, you know, we stay in touch, and we always talk about something during that year. And a lot of times it's more of just talking about, you know, the development of the players and how far that team came. And the next thing you know, we're in the finals. I think, at one time we lost like 10 games in a row or something like that. And then we went on Ontario and like 13, 14 games in a row. And next thing you know, we're in the finals. And I think still, though, at the finals, Neil, like, I wasn't 100% sure. And really what I think it was is I didn't want to believe it, that it was coming to an end, right? Like, we lost, and everybody's saying their goodbyes. We get back to Wilkes-Barre. And actually, when we got back to Wilkes-Barre, I had to jump right on the bench with the NA team. So I didn't even have time to really Yeah, it was crazy. Like it was, I didn't have time to breathe and think about it or process anything. And then that's next, I think it was that Monday. You know, that's when we had the conversation, and that's when I was told that, yeah, it's done. It's over. You know, luckily again, right, like having resources and connections in the hockey community. I believe it was actually Thomas Walker's father, Randy Walker, is the one that connected me with the group down here. And it kind of just went from there. You know, I came down, went through the interview process, met everybody, felt really comfortable. Like I just felt like I was at home. Everything just felt right. And I think the biggest thing for me, Neil, was just seeing that this is an opportunity, you know, something that I didn't have in Wilkes-Barre where I was the guy in charge, right? It was like, yes, I was the head coach, but this was the opportunity for me to come down and completely build something from the ground up. You know, I said it a lot last year, and something that I really preached was last year was our first year as a program. I don't mean that in a negative way for the year before. I don't mean that disrespectfully to anybody. It was just, that was my first year, and I wanted things to change. I wanted to do things the right way, the correct way. I wanted to get young talent in. I wanted to focus on the EHL and not have to focus on 20 other tasks, other, you know, duties. I wanted to be the head coach and GM and run the ship. And that, I think, is what made me comfortable. Ryan Scott, our vice president, and Murray really just said, here's the keys, go, right? We trust you. You're the guy that's in charge. You have the background and the knowledge. Take off. And I think something that caught everybody off guard was of how in detail I was with everything, you know, from locker room to ordering equipment to how I was recruiting and what I needed and everything. Like, I think everybody was kind of thrown off like, oh, wow, this is actually the real deal, right? Like the EHL team is actually going to be a real team. This is going to be a real situation finally. So that was kind of, you know, I think everybody, again, like another story there is Robin Remick, our president. She's president for the Black Bears and us. Like I remember those early on, I would come down on the weekends before I found a place down here, and you know, I'd get some work done, do this, meet with her, and I'd always come back. Well, in Wilkes-Barre we did this. In Wilkes-Barre we did that. Okay, up in Wilkes-Barre, and I remember one time she just stopped me in mid-sentence and just said, "Stop." She goes, "It's not Wilkes-Barre anymore. You're here. Tell me what you need to do. The next time you say in Wilkes-Barre we did this, we're gonna have problems." So it was just. Really, the only thing for me was just to kind of come down, right? I was excited and everything. I just needed to, take a deep breath and just know that everything was going to be okay. You know, I think it's just like anybody else. It's like a player, you know, they play for an organization for a couple of years and then they go somewhere else. There's a lot of unknowns in the back of their head, but for me, I wanted to get here and I wanted to get to work right away. And I knew once I could get here and get straight to work and sign a couple guys that, you know, any nerves that I might have had would have went right away, you know?
And I like to hear that too. It's no shot, like you said, at the two coaches that, you know, led Team Maryland in their first year, but it was a clean slate for you going into the second year. And just to tell the folks at home what the numbers were so they understand what you did accomplish, Team Maryland their first year had a record of 10-35-1. You turned that team into above 500 team going 23-19-4 this past year. Then in terms of commitments, you went from 2 to 7. That's more than triple. Like just to do something that's more than triple is pretty unheard of. So I have to ask now that you go into what you're calling year 2 of the program, what do you credit that success to? Is it your past history, and what goals do you have set for this year?
I think, you know, really, I think all coaches, right, we all rely on our past history and our successes and stuff like that. Obviously, I think, you know, the success in Wilkes-Barre definitely carried over. Another portion of that would have been the guys that followed me here, right? Like, you know, Dennis Arkapenko, Cody Rumsey, Evan Green, There was, even a couple guys that I had back in youth hockey ended up coming here. Joseph Donahue, Rory Gresham. I had a good relationship with Tristan Mock, recruiting him over the past couple of years, and he actually came to camp with Wilkes-Barre. David Fostel, can't forget him, right? I coached him 2 years in Wilkes-Barre. So, the list kind of carries on, and sorry if I miss any guys because there's so many of them. I think that helped. I think that made other guys, new guys comfortable knowing that there was a good following behind me. Johnny Jackson, right, ends up coming in halfway through. I think the big thing was, and I go back again to that Final Four year, team success, I believe, always comes from individual success. And when guys are being successful individually on and off the ice, as a unit that comes together, and that's where you get, at this level, that's where you get the success from. I think I kind of have a knack for finding those hidden gems, and I think I also have that knack of taking players that might not be the highest quality player in the league, or might not be the best skating player, or whatever it may be. I've had success with developing them and move them on. You look back at some of these guys like Joseph Donahue and Rory Gresham, they were on my 16U team in Wilkes-Barre, and where those guys are at now, I mean, they'll be the first ones to tell you. Their families will be the first one to tell you that, back then they never thought junior hockey would have even been the situation for them. You look at other guys, JP Natishin at Kings, Rhett Padgett at Kings, and Josh Edwards. All those guys put the time in, developed their games, listened, learned, and really gave effort. And that's something that, you can get on guys and you can ride guys as much as possible. But I've been fortunate to have kids that just, they want to be here. They want to get better. And that's, going back to your first question with the recruiting process, that's something that I miss, is being able to develop that relationship right off the bat with a family or with a kid, in person at a showcase or in tryouts or whatever it is, because you need them to trust you, right? And numbers don't lie, obviously. Numbers with the league don't lie. Numbers with, my previous seasons don't lie. Those all help. But being able to look a kid in the eyes and look a mom and dad in the eyes and tell them things are going to be all right. What's the ultimate goal at the end of the day is college hockey, and we're going to get you there. I can promise you that, right? Those are things that I relied on heavy this past year. I think something that actually flies under the radar, and we haven't announced it yet, is we've had a little bit more success than just the college numbers. David Fostel signed with his hometown team in Italy. It's a third league pro team in Italy. And Jada Reuter is staying in Netherlands, and he's signed with his pro team, his hometown pro team. So there's success there. Dennis Archipenko played in the World Junior Championships with Ukraine. Jada Reuter played with Holland in the World Junior Championships. So we had more success than what really, if you really dig into it. The other thing that plays a factor too is, like, I tread this lightly, right? Because you don't want to lie to kids, but the opportunity to make an all team is real. Like I said, I've been around that league now for a while. I've developed a ton of relationships with coaches in that league, and it's not just, here in Maryland for these kids to have an opportunity to go to the NA. So with the younger guys, that's something that, we speak about and give them that education, right? Just because you're here doesn't mean that the door is closed to other avenues. I'm a firm believer that door that opens up to our facility here at Pioneer Orchard, there's 400 doors for you on the other side. And what you do with the tools in that toolbox I give you is up to you. and I think that's been the success in a nutshell, right? Going into year 2, obviously, I think, now things are established here. We had a good year, so that's helped. Made the playoffs, obviously the success with the numbers. But, I think like any other coach, right, is the college commitment list, right? I think, that's the most important thing to me right now. I want guys that want to go to college and want to succeed and want to be here and motivated, and I want to make that dream come true for a kid. And if, I want to be up there in the league, if not be the top team in the league this year. I think that's my number one goal. And look, championships are great, right? And I think that's more the kids' way on that, right? And they think about that more than we do. But I also, let's throw it out there. Us coaches, we're competitive too, and I think that's what makes this league tremendous, right? Like, we're all competitive coaches. We're all buddies outside the rink, and then when we get there and we're across from each other on the bench, it's like we're out there on the ice fighting just as the players are. So it keeps you on your toes, makes you be a better coach. And again, like, you look at the Avs and the Boston, Junior Rangers and some of these teams that, what would Chris have this year? 19, 20 commits. So
19, yeah.
That, and hats off, that's a tremendous job. But that for me motivates me to get there.
Yep.
And for me, like, having a guy like Chris, that's just, that throws fuel on the fire for me to get there. And we have those relationships with everybody. And I think, something with me and Chris is like, I talk to him all the time, and it's like, I'm going to get you someday. I'm going to get you. I'm going to get you. I'm going to beat you in the finals, or I'm going to beat you in college commits this year, So just competitive banter. That's all it is. But I think for me in year 2, that's my number one goal. Yes, I do have a little fire, I guess you could say, to finally get a ring. But, I was there 2 years ago, and then the year before that, we went to the Robertson Cup in the NA and lost to Shreveport, who won the Robertson Cup. And it's been 2 out of the last 3 years that I've been to a championship. So there is that. But I tell you what, that relates to the kids too, right? If I'm not being competitive, and if I don't want it just as much as they do, then why am I doing this? And why I'm not going to be able to help the kids then, right? Because that's their goal: college hockey, EHL, win a junior hockey championship. Yep. We got to have the same goals in mind and strive for those goals, and it should always be a goal.
And I think that's a great segue into what I wanted to ask next. Obviously, you touched on a number of players that have climbed the ladder to college hockey, worked up to the NA, or now signed pro back home. And I'm not sure if you've been following these Team of the Week features, but I reach out to a lot of the alumni for each story, and I get some testimonials from the players. So I'm going to read you one right now because this stuck out to me. This is Jake Fuss, who didn't play for you in Team Maryland, but played for you in Wilkes-Barre. And I'm not going to read the whole paragraph, but being around him helped me improve my game and got me to where I wanted to be. This is him speaking about his experience with you. Even throughout this past season with Coach Fusco, he would watch a couple of our games and shoot me a text telling me what I could have done better on the ice. When you play for a coach that cares that much about you, it only makes you that much better as a hockey player. So in his first year at UNE, you're watching him play while you're coaching Team Maryland. Now I got to put you on the spot, whether it's Fuss or is it any of these other guys. Is there one commitment or one advancement story that you're really, really proud of?
Wow, there's a bunch. And I'm kind of, that touched my heart because, obviously I spent a lot of time with Fuss over the years. But, Neil, like, honestly, these kids are special to me. I've definitely, like I said before, developing those relationships, and some of these guys I had for a couple of years. It's tough to see them go. But I think with like some of my quotes, right, that I send you when a kid commits, like sometimes it's tough for me to put a quote together because there's so much I want to say. and there's so much I want to talk about with the kid. But Josh Edwards at King's College, that's a big one that sticks out to me. That kid, you know, was nonstop. He never stopped putting the work in. He was a tremendous skater, but he lacked the size. And, you know, Dane and we did private lessons and early morning 6 o'clock lessons on the ice, and just, you know, over, I think we were together 4 years. It was just, every year he got better, better, and better. And I remember after the first year, his first year there in the EHL, he was all about wanting to go to school. He wanted to go to school. Very good academics, obviously. He had a couple of decisions and a couple of choices to make. And I remember, like, he made a decision, and it was kind of like after that, I remember he was playing in pre-draft with me, because he was still, you know, eligible. He was still age eligible. And he made the decision to come back for another year. And, you know, he really wanted Kings. Like, Kings is, you know, every kid has a special place or some place they really, really want to go to. I mean, the program that he's in at Kings, he can eventually go to Notre Dame and do all these amazing things. And the kid's going to have a tremendous, you know, career outside of hockey and all that stuff. And he wanted it so bad. And he went through a lot of ups and downs that year, you know, and at the end of the day, when I got that phone call and we discussed it, and you know, the Kings College coaching staff called, and that I think was the ultimate success story for me with a kid. You know, watching that kid literally go from the second level 16U team all the way to Division III college hockey. And he had a successful freshman campaign as well. Another one who just recently committed was Johnny Jackson. You know, he's a tremendous success story. But, you know, Jake Fuss, that's, again, yeah, and it's just not him that I watch. I watch all of them. I really try and keep tabs on everybody and follow them, and obviously a lot of them play each other, right? So
yep. It's
fun to kind of, like, in Wilkes-Barre, I know, like, Kings was playing was it Albertus? Yes, Albertus. So Zach and Walks were there, and I got to see them play against, you know, the three guys and from Kings, and just, you know, Stevenson, and yeah, it's pretty cool. And it's like weird too at the same sense, because it's like these kids have been with you. They were kids, now they're freshmen and sophomores in college, right? So it's weird. But Jake Fuss, I mean, he's a success story. I mean, alone, like, what he accomplished in junior hockey, and I tell you what, the success story for Jake Fuss was that he really just trusted the process. You know, he really just, he trusted me, and he listened to me, and he spent his time, you know, at the Tier 3 level. And when he got his opportunity in the NA, he made it count. You know, I think, you know, he got called up there towards the end of our season, just before playoffs, and he was a tremendous part of that NA Wilkes-Barre Knights team going to Robertson Cup. I mean, he had a tremendous playoff run for them and filled some holes that they needed. And then next thing you know, he's aging out in the NA for them. And, you know, the ultimate success and the ultimate goal is college hockey, and there he is. So, you know, that's success in itself. You know, what these kids, and again, like, I don't want to give myself all the credit for their success, right? But, you know, their success is because of what they did, their work that they put in. And like I said, you know, I give them a toolbox. What they do with it is up to them. You know, Rhett Padgett's another one. You know, and I named it all. You said pick one, but it's tough, Neil. It really is. It's tough.
And the reason I brought up Fuss is because I wanted to kind of transition it into yourself as well. And Jake was an all-star in our league. The year before, you were a coach for the all-star team. And obviously, you know, that came following the Frozen Finals appearance. What we do is we invite the coaches that reach the Frozen Finals, and you were probably one of the easiest guys to text. Do you want to be involved? Yes. Okay. Well, that conversation is over. But going back to this past October, and getting that experience with Bill Zanaboni and Chris Sorella and Freddie Meyer and Rich DiCaprio had to sub in one game.
Yep.
Those are some of the top teams in our league, and you touched on it just in terms of commitments. What was that experience like for you?
It was humbling. It was very humbling. Not just to represent the league on that level and at that stage. It's obviously that's something for your resume always, right? And something that you can always be proud of. But it was awesome working with those guys, and being a coach in the league, the players' respect that I got and everything, like it just shows you what kind of quality guys we have in this league, whether it's coaches or players. There's respect all across the board. So it was fun. It was a ton of fun. Long trip up there. I remember I was kind of exhausted at first, but once you got on the ice and started getting moving around and you settle right in. But I think it was enjoyable being around Chris and Freddie and Bill, and obviously Richard on the bench. Like, the way everybody interacted, the way we talked, on the bench during games, discussing things or, just talking hockey afterwards or, whatever it may have been. It was a tremendous experience and something that, I'll never forget. And then again, like you think you have everything and everything, but then you get on the ice with Sorella and he runs a couple drills and it's like, oh wow, like, I picked up a few things, and then Bill runs something and then, we're all intermingling with each other on what to do. It was, and then, Freddie Meyer, like the knowledge that guy has, like it was fun just sitting there talking hockey where we actually had time to sit down and be friends, right? Like, during the season, we're playing each other. You don't have a whole lot of time to just get to know each other and share ideas and thoughts and talk hockey. So it was a lot of fun. It was definitely fun. It was an experience and history, right? So it was quite the experience. Winning a game and obviously the first game too was something else. And then, I think we ran out of some gas there in the third one, but, and then Tristan Mock, I think it was even better for me to have a kid there representing our team that actually played well. He played well and he had a couple goals and really shined. And it was fun sending those messages to our media staff, hey, Neil just posted this. It's Mock, get that up, retweet it, whatever, or he scored a goal. Like, let's get this out there. It was fun to be a part of that whole thing. And at the end of the day, we did have to focus on hockey and stuff, but I know a lot of guys take the week off or whatever it was. It was a fun week, that's for sure.
And I still have a tweet. Sorry, you go.
And I tell you what, not to cut you off, but I tell you what, like, hats off to you too. I don't think we would have had the success and the schedule and everything that we had going on that week. You made it easy for us. Like you really made it easy for, Freddie and Chris and Bill and myself just to be the coaches and do our thing. The meals that you set up and the college visits that you set up, it was a tremendous experience. I know it probably wouldn't have been the same if it wasn't for you, man. Like, seriously.
Well, I appreciate that. I get a little goosebumps talking about it. I still have a tweet pinned from that night when we beat Salem State. I mean, I don't have it on camera, but if you remember, I think I came running down the hallway and like almost broke through the locker room door to celebrate with the team. But it's just one of those moments that I'll never forget because it was just special to be a part of it. I'm sure the same was for you. And one of the things that I always talk about when people ask about different coaches in the league and they ask about you, I always say that you find a way to put a positive spin on almost everything. So for my last question, it's going to feel like I'm almost going on a depressing path compared to what I just asked. But the last time I had you on this podcast was around February 12th. A month later, if you remember, was March 12th, which was game 3 of your playoff series against the Little Flyers.
Oh, wow.
And
yeah.
It's funny how things work out. And obviously that series doesn't end the way that you want it to. But I need you to tell me how you came to grips with the way the season ended. Was it easier that you had lost and you didn't see the season get canceled, knowing that you couldn't play in the next round? What positive spin did you find when it all came to an end, and then obviously this pandemic just took over our lives?
I think it was definitely easier that we lost. And I know, because listening to Mark's segment, definitely flipped the script there. Like, if you won and all of a sudden the season's done, I think that would have been, we had closure is what I'm trying to say.
Yep.
Like, we had closure to the end of our season. There was part of it where, like, and I remember it clear as day, because I remember me and Mark talking before the game during warm-ups, and it was like, man, this stuff is crazy, because the NBA just canceled, and it was like, what is going on? Like, what is happening here? And, like, you never even thought that our season would end, right? Like, I mean, at the end of the day, I know Mark's thinking, like, can't wait to beat you and go on to the next series, and I'm thinking the same thing. Can't wait to get back in that locker room and celebrate. Team Maryland's, we were happy that we got game 1 victory, the first time in franchise history. So that was a big to do with everybody in the organization. But, it was like, bam, like, wow, because it ended, and obviously we were, there was a lot of emotion. Guys aging out, and a couple of those guys that I've had for a while, and it's not the way you want it to end. And really, again, like, I get fired up sometimes, and we have our moments, but for me, it was like, again, like, okay, we made the playoffs and all this stuff, and we have all this success, so let's be happy about this, right? Let's take these positives of the season, take positives of what some of you guys accomplished individually, take positives. And I spoke about that, touched on that stuff. And, you walk around and shake everybody's hands and say, hey, we're going to have exit meetings on Sunday, right?
Yep.
Give them a couple of days and relax a little bit. And my dad actually was in town. He came down. So he was here. And my dad and my stepmom, and I remember we hung out in my office for a little bit, and then we went to grab food before they left town.
Yep.
So we were eating early dinner, and I remember there was something on TV, and I want to say it was something with college hockey. It was either the Big Ten or one of the conferences canceled the remainder of their tournament. The championship tournament, conference tournament. And then there was something else, and then that's when they made the final decision on the NCAA basketball tournament. So it was like, me and my dad were sitting there, and it was, man, this is crazy. Like, what's the hysteria over this? Like, what is really going on here? And I remember, say goodbye, he leaves, I'm driving down the road, and it was like, there's a grocery shopping center next to where I live, and I mean, Neil, like, the cars were lined up on the street, like, you couldn't even get in the parking lot of this place. And I'm like, there's something crazy going on here.
Yeah.
I got home, and then I'm seeing, like, people are calling me, families calling me, like, everybody's like, dude, like, oh, it's like the apocalypse, like, go load up on food and blah 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 blah. And I remember I was sitting here, and it was like, man, the only thing I don't have right now is dog food. I need to go get dog food. That was the only thing I worried about. And I'm just trying to take my mind off of the game. I'm trying to take my mind off. The season's over, like, because for us, I think, you start reflecting on everything right away. And I'm a guy that I reflect on, like, with the EHL, All-Star week. We beat Salem State. Yeah, I remember that clear as day, and how happy we were. And I remember, I think it was Freddie was next to me, and there was like 5 minutes left, and I was tugging on his jacket, like, dude, we got him. Like, we just beat a college team, like, excitement. So the same thing at the end of the year, you start reflecting on things. And I think something for me was just to know that we had a ton of success this year, whether people know it or not.
Yeah.
And then there was that message. I was standing in line. I had a bag of dog food, and one of I can't remember who the player was, texted me saying his buddy on the Rev just said that Rogues gave him a call and said the season's over. We're not having playoffs.
Yep.
And then literally maybe 2 minutes later, you sent a message out, I think.
Yep.
Or it was on Instagram or something.
Yeah.
You sent something out stating that the season was postponed or canceled.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, wow. No way. So then it was kind of then I had a little bit of anger. Why did we play this game today? Why did we play game 3 today? Why did we just, it was so many emotions going through your head. And it was even crazier for us down here because before our game started, the Black Bears were loading the bus to go up to Jamestown, New York. They were playing the Rebels.
Yeah.
And halfway up there is when the NA made the decision to cancel all games that weekend. Yeah. Postpone all the games that weekend. So the Black Bears ended up, I believe they ended up going all the way up there. And when they got there is when the final decision was made. So they had to drive all the way back down to Maryland to get here. And then that's when everything started, kind of the domino effect started happening, Neil. You go from your season ending to that emotion to being, and I'll be the first one to admit it. I didn't think this was that serious at first. And a lot of people didn't, right? I just didn't know, you know what I mean? And I guess I just didn't pay attention to it enough to really understand what was really happening. So I was kind of one of those guys this is dumb. This is dumb. Why? But, all of a sudden, because that was a Thursday, Friday morning, the Canadian boys, give me a call. Michael Delorier and Vincent Maurice, Coach, we have to leave now. We have to get to the border by a certain time because they're closing the border down. So I'm like, oh my God. So then that's when, we got with MedStar, who was highly involved. Amber, our main AT down here, and Andrea, they were on the front lines during this whole thing. But they kind of gave us the information guys have to get out of town now, and then obviously I spoke with Clint Millimock, and he was sending his boys right away, right when they got off the bus here in Piney, see you later, go home, and I'll fill you in if season happens or we stay back, I'll let you know when to come back, but get out of town, go home, go to your families. Yeah. So that's when I got on the horn and was calling everybody, hey, actually interviews are now. Get to the rink now. I need you here. We need to pack up. We need to get out of the building. And then it was more surreal because then you had guys like Dennis who was stuck here. Dennis couldn't fly home to the Ukraine. I think David Fostel was here for a couple of weeks after because Italy was completely locked down. So he was stuck here for a bit. Jay DeRuiter was stuck here for a bit. So, the end of the hockey season was completely different than any other year. It was crazy. It was definitely something that obviously, and who knows, right, what the future holds. Down here it's still kind of it's open, right, but it's not the same. Wearing masks and even for us, on the ice, I got to wear a mask and can't blow a whistle. It has to be we have electronic whistles. You can only have 20 people on the ice right now, and stuff like that. So that's when the whole process, get guys out of town, worry about the kids first. That was my main concern. Worry about the kids first. Let's take care of them, do what's needed, and then we'll go from there. And that's kind of when, lockdown happened and everything else. And it was quite the experience.
and knowing you, when things do start to return back to a sense of normalcy, the way everything came to a close for you, you'll be that much more fuel to make it back to Providence in the future. So
yes.
I want to thank you for coming back on the podcast, telling some great stories, whether it was your time in Wilkes-Barre or your time so far in Maryland, and and it shouldn't go, unnoticed what you've done with that program in just 1 year. And hopefully we can get back on the ice here very soon for games. And if the folks want a team to watch this year, it's definitely Josh Fusco and Team Maryland. So thanks for coming on the podcast, and stay safe for the rest of the offseason. All right, man?
All right. Thanks, Neil. I appreciate it. And anytime you want me on, I'm here. All right.
Thanks for listening to The E-Show. Learn more at easternhockeyleague.org and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Also, be sure to subscribe and get notified when next week's podcast is released.